In this video, I'm going to show you how to etch some Zelda.
Kaboom!
So those of you who know me best know that I hate art. I hate it with a passion. However, this is something I enjoy. And the reason I enjoy it is because when you're etching something with a stylus like this, it kind of hides your mistakes because it gives it a 3D impression. It makes it look like you actually meant to make that mistake. So I'll try and go into detail how I did this, and at this point I don't even know how it's going to look. So maybe it'll look like garbage, and nobody will ever see this again. I got some pictures here that I'm going to try and mimic. Some of them are a little more complex than others, but I'm going to do my best to try and really capture the essence of Breath of the Wild. And if you haven't played that game yet, I'll leave a link down in the description to it, because it is an epic game. If you haven't played it, like, what are you doing? Seriously.
The kit that I'm using to perform these burns is linked down in the description. It's a really nice kit, as it comes with I think 11 different points. However, I only use 3 different points in this build. Those points are the universal point, which is great for all around wood burning, the flow point, which is great for rounded edges and such, and the shading point, which is good for giving you a variety of colors and shading in some darker or lighter areas. Being that I'm not an artist, I needed some pictures to go off of to actually etch these things. The first one that you see here is a guardian, and it's one of the toughest enemies in Breath of the Wild. One major thing to note is that if you're going to do any type of wood burning like this, always make sure that you trace out what you're going to draw with the pencil first, because once you make these sketches, there's really no going back because it's burned into the wood. The only way you can get it out is if you sand it or chisel out what you've already burned. At first I was going to use the universal tip to outline my guardian, but then I switched to the flow point because it gave it a more natural feel. The hardest part about drawing this guardian was getting the legs right. I'm terrible at drawing 3D pictures, so trying to get it to make it look like it had 4 legs that were 3D rather than just 4 legs slapped on a piece of wood was pretty tough. This leg right here is the only one that I felt that I messed up, the one in front right there. I should have drawn it in a more curved fashion, but it ended up looking like a squiggly noodle. I apologize in advance for this angled shot. I ended up switching back to the universal point because it gave the claws a more sharp and pointy feel to them. The halos and streaks that you see here are from when a guardian would charge up in the game to actually fire a laser shot right at Link. The shading tip gave him a nice transparent look just like in the game.
If any of you guys want some crazy good coffee, get Highlander Grog. I'll put a link down and do it in the description, but this stuff is off the hizzle.
For my second drawing, I decided to go with the Triforce inside a bird emblem. It's a pretty common symbol within the Zelda franchise, so I felt it was necessary that I put it on this chest box. One thing that I'll really have to work on in any of my future etchings is getting proportions right. I need to get better at guessing the future sizes of my drawings, because sometimes when I finish burning these things, they're lopsided or they extend one way to the left, one way to the right, way too far on the box, and it doesn't look symmetrical. None of the drawings on this build were too bad, but in the future I'm really going to try and make my drawings not look like a 12-year-old drew them. If any of you pros out there have any tips for me on how I can get my proportions better, let me know in the comment sections, because I'd really like to hear about them. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't played the game yet, one of the first items you get is the Sheikah Slate. It is probably one of the most iconic weapons that you get in the game, so it had to go on here. At first I was going to put the whole thing sideways on the front of this plank here, but then I decided to do it vertically because the handle fit right next to the drawer perfectly. Some of you might be asking, why don't you shade the eye darker? Well, this isn't a marker that I'm using, it's a wood burn. So all the coloring that you see me doing there took me a long time because all that wood had to be burned. Getting the font right in the actual title was really tricky. I wanted to make sure that it was perfect because it's one of the things that stands out about the Zelda franchise. Whenever I see a Z in this type of fashion, I'm immediately drawn to it and I know who made it and who it's from. To make sure that my penmanship looked spot on, I used the universal point to get nice straight lines. this small flower that you see right here was something that I noticed in the very first trailer for Breath of the Wild. I didn't get it quite right, but it's pretty close. You may notice that I actually put a T in place of an I in Wild, but don't worry, I came back and fixed it later. Another spoiler alert incoming, but if you go into any of the shrines in the game, there are these little nodes with dots all around the walls. So that's what I decided to put on here because it was something that I fondly remember from the game. They also help with filling in the dead space around the rest of the project to make it not feel so empty. When I was playing the game for myself, I learned from the internet that there was an actual language hidden in the hieroglyphs. These hieroglyphs can be seen all throughout the game, and if you look it up on the internet, there'll be an actual code, so if you want to figure out what this means, you can look it up. There's a lot more writing that I didn't put in this video, so if you want to see all of it, you can go check out the full video where this project came from, up in the corner, right there. For a first time super detailed build, this turned out way better than I thought it was going to. There were a couple minor changes that I didn't show in this video, so if you want to see the final product for yourself, go ahead and check out the main video.